These are the 5 most common Facebook ad mistakes I see whenever I audit new accounts or whenever I start working with a client. These are some of the issues that are likely causing your high CPA, that are making it so your return on ad spend isn't favorable, and ultimately just making you burn capital and cash across the board and making it very difficult for you to scale and grow your brand. So let's get right into it. The first of which is having no sort of creative testing in place. In this day and age, the majority of the efforts you'll be implementing onto your Facebook ad account are going to be on the creative side. So this means testing new concepts, testing new angles, new formats. Every single thing you can think of, you should try to test inside your ad account based on the research you've done already behind your customers. So the testing structure is as follows. This is what we use with all our clients and how we're able to scale them from $100 to $1,000 a day in 60 days. So the structure is very simple. You have one main CBO campaign. Inside that campaign, you will be adding new ad sets each week. So every single week, you want to add 1 or 2 different tests. If you have more budget and you want to allocate and you want to go faster, you can go right ahead. Keep in mind, even if you have 5, 10 different ad sets added every single week, under the CBO structure, you likely won't be getting any sort of spend behind them. So that is why you want to have 1 to 2 new tests added every week. Inside each one of those tests, you will have 3 ads per ad set. Depending on the budget you're really operating under, if you have a ton of money that you're spending, you can take more smaller swings with the differences in your creative. So this means minor changes in headline, maybe you change some colors, maybe you make some little adjustments that aren't as intense or aren't as impactful. But given the scale at which you're operating, they will have a much more noteworthy result. And you'll be able to start dissecting little bits and pieces of the actual ad that are generating the most sales to then build out your perfect ad. But if you're a bit smaller, let's say you're spending only $1,000 a day, you want to take a little bit bigger swings. This means making more drastic changes. So this can be changing the entire image and you keep the same headline, or maybe you have the same headline and you have the same image, but maybe you have completely different benefits. So you want to make something that is actually tangible and visible, not just minutia changes. The other very important thing you want to keep in mind is inside each one of those ads, you want to have at least 2 headlines and 2 primary texts. Give your ad as many options to test inside of its own ecosystem. So you have one ad with multiple primary texts and multiple headlines. Doesn't mean you have to have multiple ads. It just means inside that one ad, you will have multiple options for Facebook to choose from. The other part is you want to incorporate a minimum spend of $5 to $10 per ad set. The reason behind this is what we've seen is a lot of times Facebook won't allocate any sort of budget to those new tests. And although you want to allocate spend towards the best performing ads, sometimes Facebook will go after your winners and only give them budget, which will sort of limit the way you can really test. And although you don't want to be running an ABO where you'll end up ultimately inefficiently spending money towards those ad sets, you do want to give those new ad sets you're testing some form of budget and at least a shot to be able to become winners inside the ad account. I found that between $5 to $10 is just enough for Facebook to see and decide whether or not it's an ad that will actually have success and whether or not they'll ultimately end up giving it more spend. In terms of how you manage this campaign, in terms of the testing, you want to cut the ads inside the testing campaign if you don't see any sort of sales after 4 or 5 days, depending on what your target CPA is, or if it does have sales, but maybe it's at 3x the target CPA. Repeat this process weekly, and you'll have a very well-functioning and well-oiled creative testing machine. But this is step one and the most important thing, and a lot of brands don't do this. They'll just grab an advanced shopping campaign, throw ads inside of it, and then wonder why they're not getting any sort of results. This is why. You need to put in the time. You need to test weekly, every single week, put in the reps. Going on to the next, you want to go into your high view through conversions. So what are view through conversions? View through conversions are Facebook's way of attributing sales to customers simply viewing or generating an impression on an ad. This means if somebody just saw the ad but never actually clicked it, but then went and converted through an email, Facebook will still give the conversion to Facebook, to themselves as the ones that generated the sale. And the reality is, for the most part, that isn't really how or what led to the customers making that purchase. The problem with this also is if you are running email marketing simultaneously, and let's say you have a sale, you will likely end up having a lot of repeat customers show up. And with the 1 day view conversions, a lot of these will end up being hit, and it'll inflate your return ad spend and improve your CPA, but it'll all be very fake numbers that don't help you in determining whether your ad was actually successful or if it was actually just an email campaign in the background. How do you make these changes? You will go inside the ad set level, and there will be a part that says attribution setting. You'll want to take out 1 day view and only leave 7 day click. This will be for any campaign you run. Keep it as 7 day click. For some brands, if you are spending several millions, then yes, you can keep 1 day view as there'll be a higher impact. But for 99% of brands that are trying to run ads, keep it at 7 day click. It'll give you the most accurate representation of the performance of your ads. The third part is a lot of brands just don't do any sort of customer exclusions, whether they don't really know what it is or they don't know how to add it or whatever the case might be. So customer exclusion essentially allows you to focus only on new customer acquisition. For most businesses, that's the main source of efforts that they're trying to put. You want to acquire new customers and then engage your existing customers through email and retention tactics such as SMS, email, and organic social. But what ends up happening is Facebook will go after your existing customers because it realizes that these are customers that are more likely to purchase because they've obviously already bought from you. You want to avoid that. You want to consistently push new customers to your funnel to get them to buy and to become existing customers and continue that cycle. So how do you do it? You go into the ad set level, and when you go into custom audiences, to do this, you'll have to click where it says click to original audiences, as Facebook will automatically try to push you to Advantage Plus audiences. But when you click to original audiences, it'll transition you to this menu, and you will add the purchase pixel 180 days, which is the maximum that Facebook allows you. And then also you will add a customer list that is directly synced to your Klaviyo or whatever other email software you're using. The beauty of this is it updates every single day, so you're constantly excluding all the customers that you are bringing into the business automatically without having to do any sort of extra work. You want to make sure you do both of these things and not just focus only on Pixel or only on Klaviyo. Do both to maximize the efforts you're putting in. More likely than not, you're still going to hit some existing customers, as Facebook isn't able to track every single person, but you want to maximize as much as possible the number of new customers you're hitting and minimize the number of existing customers you're going after. This is what it'll look like inside the Facebook ads platform. It'll break down how much you're going after new audiences, existing customers, and then unknown when they're not able to track what the person really is. This is how you would integrate it inside of Klaviyo. So if we are connecting our meta campaign, you would go into Klaviyo, you hit integrations, and then you will have to connect your advertising account to the account that you're running, and then you will add a custom audience sync. It'll connect directly to Facebook. You will give it a name, and then it will automatically sync. It's very simple, seamless. There's a ton of articles behind that you can use to follow, and it will make the process very easy. And once you set up once, you don't have to do it again. It's a one-time thing. Another important thing is the lack of optimizations. I think a lot of times brands take it a little too literal when they mean don't play around the ad account too much, as it negatively impacts the performance of the account. But at the same time, you do want to have optimizations taking place on a weekly basis. This means cutting underperforming ads, increasing budgets, launching new tests. All of these things need to be happening on a weekly basis, but you want to follow a very structured process. So How can you follow it? The way that we do with all our accounts, as well as whenever we are auditing an account and want to give them a recommendation, follow this structure and ask yourself these questions and then give yourself the answer. So, has it been running for 7 days since the ad launched? If the answer is no, you want to ask yourself, are there any sales? Yes, let it keep running. No, was there any spend? If the answer is yes and it wasn't doing well, you cut it. If it doesn't have any spend, let it run. There's not enough data to really make that decision. On the flip side of it, has it been 7 days? Yes. Did the ad get any spend? No. You let it keep running. You can see where I'm going with this. If the ad hasn't gotten spend, don't try to cut it before you're able to generate any tangible data. The reason being, you can't make decisions off of information you don't have. Has the ad gotten spent? Yes. Okay. Was the CPA above the target? No. Good. Positive. That means you can increase spend. Was it above the target? Yes. Okay. You cut it. Very simple. If after 7 days performance is not where it needs to be, you cut it. You don't need it to be running and inefficiently and spending money that it's not generating back. So going on to the final, too many campaigns. I preach on about this a lot. Account consolidation. It really just comes down to simplifying how many accounts you have inside of your account running at the same time. 99% of brands will likely be able to operate on one single account, and that is following just the campaign structure that we had shown at the beginning, where you have one CBO campaign running and you implement new ad sets to test every single week. You don't need 5 different campaigns running. You don't need to overcomplicate the process. All that is ultimately doing is making your life more difficult and making it harder to make changes and figure out what's working and what's not. You're going to be spreading your budget way too thin, and more likely than not, you'll be able to get the best possible performance by just consolidating everything to one campaign, and then being able to have Meta distribute that budget based on the performance at sea. So keep it simple. Don't try to get too crazy and cute with it. Just leave it at that one campaign for most of the time. So hopefully that was helpful. Leave any comments down below, and I'll be continuing to push these videos out every single week and trying to give you guys all the information I can from what I'm seeing on my end with the ad accounts that we're managing, as well as anything new that I'm learning. Because even if I've been doing this for several years, there's always new stuff to learn. Other people that are doing this better, people that know more than me, people that know more than them, so on and so forth. Keep learning. And if you have any questions, just let me know. All right, take care.